Hi everyone, Janie here. Welcome back to my garden. So today, Jason and I are working up here in the orchard garden and we are doing a bit of gopher damage control. So over this past year, we have dealt with gophers. I've actually never dealt with gophers before, so it took me a while to finally admit that I had a problem and that gophers were actually here. And in that time between admitting that I had the problem and actually figuring out a solution that was taking care of it, we ended up losing quite a lot of plants in my orchard garden bed, which is the garden bed right behind me. The gophers obviously have preferences of plants that they want to eat and other plants that they don't want to eat. So now we're slowly going through and starting to replant. And if we are replanting plants that they like, Jason and I have decided to put gopher cages on all of those plants. But there's another option. If you don't want to do gopher cages, you can put plant plants that the gophers really don't like. And I know what my gophers don't like because they left them there intact, where when they decimated everything else, they left this one particular plant. And that plant is Sweet Romance Lavender. You can see I have a bunch of them still here. When I planted this garden bed right here up, this is kind of the main area that the gophers kind of attacked, right in between these two orange trees over here. And then they came underneath the pathway and then they attacked this garden bed, really attacked it. So what I had planted earlier on in the season, I had one artichoke plant here, and then I had a bunch of cardoons, which is this guy right here, that I actually grew from seed. And I was really excited about these cardoons. I had gotten the seeds from my friend Raphael at Park Winters, and he said that, just by chance, I didn't even know that I had gophers at that time. He said that his gophers leave his cardoons alone, but attack his artichokes. So if you don't know what a cardoon is very similar to an artichoke. The flowers look like almost the same beautiful electric violet color, except for they're just smaller. And the difference is, for artichokes, you basically eat the flower bud after it's finished, or is it before it's bloomed? But with cardoons, you actually eat the stems, but you have to cook them a special way or something like that. So they are edible, but they're just not as common as artichokes because I think they're a little harder to deal with. So I had planted all these cardoons here with this Sweet Romance Lavender interspersed in between, and one by one my cardoons were getting eaten up by the gophers. You can see this white flag right here. These flags are indicators of gopher activity, gopher tunnels basically, and you can see there's one there, and there's one right there. There's another one right there. So you can kind of see they're all over the place. We're leaving those flags there just so that we can watch and see if there's any more activity. We know that that's old activity. I feel like I could probably take them out now because it's been a couple months since I've seen any gopher activity. I think we've kind of taken care of it. But on the other side of this fence over here, we have goats. Our neighbors are goats, and so there's this big open field, which I'm sure there are still gophers hanging out in that open field, and I'm sure one day they're going to come back over here and they are going to have a feast of my garden, which is very frustrating, but there's nothing I can do about it, and I'm trying not to get too annoyed. So in response to knowing that we're always going to have some type of pest pressure from gophers, Jason and I have decided that if we are planting plants that the gophers will eat, we're going to put gopher cages around it. But if we're planting plants that we know that they don't like, and we obviously know they don't like the Sweet Romance Lavender, then that's even better because we know that they're not going to come and they're not going to eat it. So we have all of these Sweet Romance Lavender here, and I know this looks like a lot, but there's a reason. I like to get some garden inspiration from a whole bunch of different places, garden books, other videos, Instagram, but also Pinterest. And when I was on Pinterest, it's probably been a couple years now, I found this picture. And this picture I just think it's such a beautiful picture. Can you imagine walking down that pathway with lavender on either side? So I've been calling this a lavender river. And so I really want to plant a lavender river. And I've always wanted to plant it in my garden, and I couldn't decide where. When the gophers came and attacked this area right here, I decided, well, that's a great place for a lavender river. So that's my plans for today. So I have 23 of these Sweet Romance Lavender from Proven Winners. These guys are hardy zones 5 through 9. They get about 12 to 18 inches tall and 12 to 18 inches wide. So because I want my lavender river to connect, I'm going to be planting them 12 inches apart. Then I also have 7 more lavender that survived the gophers. And so I'm going to be digging those up and getting those in the lavender river path as well. So I have 30 Sweet Romance lavenders to make this lavender river, which I think is going to be absolutely beautiful. So first thing, we got to take all of the extra plants out, particularly these cardoons, which is really sad because they're obviously doing really well, but I know they're just sitting ducks basically. So I'm just going to preempt the darn gophers, and I'm going to get these out and then replant them with the lavender. I'm also taking out this cobalt superbena that got attacked by bedworms and then really just hasn't really bounced back. I was planning on leaving this here, but I think I'm just going to kind of revamp the area a little bit. So I'll have the lavender river. Hopefully, I have to see how once I lay them out, how long I can make the river. Hopefully I can make it all the way over here to my pomegranate tree and make it like quite the statement here. So we'll see once I get everything out. All right, we've got it all set up. I think it's very pretty. We were going back and forth between with how many curves we wanted, and I think we like it better like this. Not a ton of curves. At first I had it like, whoo, back and forth, but this is a much more gentle river, which I think is really, really pretty. So we ended up pulling some of these. These are basically full size. These are about 18 inches wide. So it's going to look a little bit deceiving because we're going to have those spotted throughout, but we're basically going to space everything center to center 12 inches apart. Okay, you ready to dig?
Yep.
30 holes?
Is it 30?
It's 30.
No.
It's 30. Let's get going. All right, Lavender River is in, and I think it looks so pretty. I love it. So obviously there's some bigger ones because there were ones that we already had growing. Those are full size now at this point. So in the spring, when I prune all my lavender back, they're going to be all the same size and they will grow equally. So it'll look a little bit more cohesive, I guess is what I'm trying to say, but you can kind of get the idea right now of what it's going to look like. So now look at this picture again, my inspiration picture again. You can see the lavender river, but then on either side of the lavender, there's some type of dwarf grass, a really pale dwarf grass on either side of it, kind of like surrounding it. And I don't know what that grass is. I cannot figure it out. So the Sweet Romance Lavender is 12 to 18 inches tall. So whatever grass it is, it needs to be shorter than that. It needs to be about 6 to 12 inches tall. And I have looked and I've even talked to some nursery owners and they haven't been able to figure out what it is either. There's been like a couple, like I think one is called Hammond and then another one's Bunny Tails, and they're just not right. They're not quite, I don't think they're what that grass is on either side. So I wanted to show you all, if you have any ideas, let me know, because I am looking for that grass, because I would love that grass on either side of this lavender. If I can't find it, I'll put something else, maybe like a Superbena, or here in Zone 9, we can use Dichondra Silver Falls as a ground cover, and I was thinking that that would be really pretty as well. But I'd really like a grass. I think that would be really pretty. So anyway, let me know in the comments section if you all know what that grass might be. I'd love to hear your thoughts on it. So just a couple care tips about lavender. I did do a lavender video with a whole bunch of care tips. I will link that at the end of this video and in the description down below. It is fall right now for us. It is mid-October, and again, we live in a warm zone, Zone 9B, and so fall is a great time for us to plant lavender. It's good because the soil is still warm, but we have the rainy season coming, so this lavender is going to get some rain. And that's one thing that I have learned from a lot of lavender growers. I went to actually a lavender farm near me in my climate, and her tips for growing lavender is that they actually need more water than you think if you live in a climate like I do. If you live in a cooler climate, right, that you get really cold and you have, you know, maybe you have some humidity, maybe you have more rain than I do, then you don't want to plant in the fall because it will be too wet and too rainy for you. You actually do want to plant in the spring. Wait till spring to plant your lavender. And then you do want to make sure that you have plenty of drainage and that there's plenty of airflow if you do have humidity, because lavender definitely likes dry conditions, but not as dry as people think if you live in my climate. And then I don't know if you noticed, but we did not use any starter fertilizer, and I am not going to be fertilizing my lavender. Lavender does not like special treatment. It doesn't like food, it doesn't like fertilizer, it just wants to be planted, and it basically just wants to be left alone. So we didn't even use biotone. I probably could have used biotone for root stimulation, but I gotta be honest, I'm very low on biotone right now. I gotta get to the store. So we didn't bother using it, and again, we're not gonna fertilize it or do anything special to this. So while Jason is doing the hard work installing the drip irrigation, good job, Jason.
Thanks.
You're doing so good at that.
It's not so hard.
Remember when you didn't know how to do drip irrigation?
I had no idea. It's actually not hard at all.
It's not hard. I'm so glad you learned how to do it. So while he's doing that, I'm actually going to come over here and I'm going to work on some pruning. I have these Daisy Mace Shasta daisies right here that definitely need some attention. So you can see that I have cut them back. I basically deadheaded them halfway through the year, but now I actually have to go in and I have to prune them. And you can see I already pruned these 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, and they look a lot better. And so they're going to be ready to flush out next spring. But I got to come through and I got to do these guys. They definitely need it. So I'm going to be working on that right now. Okay, so let me give you a little bit closer look at what I've been doing. So you can see on this Shasta daisy, I've deadheaded it. Once it bloomed and the blooms faded, I just snipped off the blooms just to make it look nice temporarily, knowing that I needed to come back in and I needed to do a really good pruning job on it. So what I'm gonna do is I'm going to come in and I'm gonna find the bloom stalk. So basically there was 2 flowers right here. I'll follow it all the way down. It's pretty rigid, so I'm going to follow it all the way down. Then as close as I can, I'm going to snip that off, and then that's where I'm going to get rid of. And so I'm just going to go through and find each bloom stalk, go down as close as I can to the ground, and then snip it off. And what that's going to do is that's going to take out all the old growth and allow for new growth, new bloom stalks to shoot out, and I'll get another flush of blooms. Probably not this year. I probably won't get another one this year, but next spring for sure. All right, there we go. Looking so fresh and so clean. And at this point, if you wanted to divide it, you could. I'm not going to divide it. I'm just going to leave it. But it's all ready to go. And if you look in, deep in there, you'll probably find some ladybugs, because this is a really good place for ladybugs to sleep all winter long. I think I scared them all away. But anyway, that's it. All right, so we have a mess that we need to clean up, but the lavender river is done. I think it looks really, really pretty. And as the new lavender grows in to match the current lavender, it's just gonna be gorgeous. So that's done. Jason is watering it in right now, and he hooked it all up to drip. So we really don't have to do anything to it until spring, when we will prune the lavender, which is really important because you don't want it to get woody. And then coming over here, I finished all of these Shasta daisies, cut them all back. They look really, really nice right now, fresh and ready to go. And then I started working on these over here. I didn't finish, but I think we're done for the day. We've been working out here for a couple hours. So I've got, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 done out of 9 of them. So you can see what I'm doing. It's just cutting them back. And you can leave these. You can leave them for cleanup in the spring so that you can leave habitats for bugs and stuff like that. But it's kind of your own personal choice, right? If you want to leave habitats for bugs, you have to be aware that you also are leaving habitats for pests, for bad bugs. So that's kind of a give and take. And then you have to be ready to do a ton of pruning in the spring before growth starts. And I just have so much to do in the spring. I just can't do it. I gotta do like half in the fall and then the other half in the spring. So Monty's taking a drink. Jason's gonna water it in. We are all done here. I hope you enjoyed this, and I hope you all have a chance to get in your garden today.